welcome back to Get Down to Business. Everyone fights for success, both personally and professionally, but too often leaders approach their daily battles with raw, uncalibrated force, wasting time, draining energy, and burning out before they ever reach the finish line. True victory requires deliberate strategy, internal discipline, and the ability to use an opponent's own momentum to your advantage. My guest today operates masterfully at the unique intersection of high-stakes corporate negotiation and elite hand-to-hand combat. Benjamin Chen is a serial entrepreneur, supply chain expert, and a black belt in Taekwondo, Hapkido, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has raised over $500 million in investment capital, led massive corporate mergers, and built multiple high-revenue enterprises. In his new book, Lessons from the Mat, the 12 martial arts principles that will help you succeed in business and in life, he breaks down how the simple, effective strategies of the dojo create the clearest path to winning in the boardroom. Benjamin, welcome to Get Down to Business.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled to have you. In martial arts, there's a fundamental concept called, and help me out over here. How's it pronounced?
It's Sudoku Zenyo, and
Saderka Zenyu.
it's a term that basically came from judo, and it is the notion of maximum efficiency in the
Oh,
use of of anything that you're doing, right?
I've been
So,
looking at those words over and over and again, and I know entrepreneurs usually do the exact opposite, usually working 80-hour weeks, fighting every fire themselves and wasting a lot of internal energy. So bottom line, you're getting there. How does a leader transition from relying on raw force to practicing true energy efficiency?
well, I think the reality is it's something that you have to learn. It's a skill. You know, when you're on the mat, for instance, right, and you're having a physical confrontation with another human being, oftentimes when someone pushes you, right, your immediate instinct is to push them back, right, force to force. But the reality is that often is probably not the right answer. That often is not the efficient answer, right? If you think about the way water would move in the famous terms of Bruce Lee, water moves around. Water doesn't go force to force. And likewise, in life and in business, it's the same.
Hmm. That's powerful. You started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at age 47, and now at, I believe, 60, you're still on the mats training and teaching one of the most physically demanding arts in the world. I'm in awe. That requires an incredible amount of personal discipline. What does your daily routine look like to sustain that level of physical and mental resilience?
It's very disciplined. I guess I would say it's not easy to be 60 and being in a combat sport, right? And especially to teach it as well. I think I keep a routine that, of course, I eat in a very healthy way. And every morning I do have a very dedicated routine. I do, 30-minute meditation. I do a very dedicated Wim Hof breathing. I do, an ice plunge, and I have a very dedicated diet. So I do have a very specific regimen that I really feel that helps me, right, on a daily basis.
Hmm. Once again, I'm chatting with Benjamin Chen, serial entrepreneur, supply chain expert, and just again all around, just master black belt in Taekwondo, Hapkido, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He's written a new book, Lessons from the Mat: the 12 Martial Arts Principles that will help you succeed in business and in life. And that's where I want to go right now. Whether you're a white belt on the mat or a founder stepping into a room full of institutional investors, you're often facing opponents who are larger, faster, or better better funded. What specific jujitsu principles do you lean on to neutralize a massive corporate opponent or a high stakes negotiator in the boardroom?
Well, I think it's important. We talk about in jujitsu on the mats, and my professor is a gentleman by the name of Hickson Gracie, and he's famous and known for really these kind of core thinking about being on the mat. Things like what we call weight distribution, connection, base. And when you translate that into the boardroom, irrespective of the size of the opponent, you're looking to maximize your leverage in the room. And so, in order to do that, you cannot forget, you cannot leave your position of power, right? You enter the room, you're there for a reason, right? Whether you're the startup entrepreneur, whether or not you have the patent for the new idea, whether or not you bring to bear other relationships, but you need to remember where you're strong. And you need to not leave that circle. You need to make sure in the dialogue, in the conversations, in the negotiation, you're always operating from your place of strength, irrespective of the other person's place of strength. You need to remember that. And only from that point can you seek to use that as leverage in your dialogue, in your conversation. It's the same as on the mat.
Absolutely. And I want to, we're going to continue our conversation, but I've got to squeeze in a quick break. But just before we go to break, can you share where folks can find your book and continue the conversation with you?
Sure. You can get the book at Amazon, and you can also get the book on Audible. And, it's been a bestseller on Amazon several times. So
As we just said in your book, which again can be found on Amazon, and we are going to link in our show notes as well, you talk about how martial arts teaches us how to seize hidden opportunities while simultaneously reducing risk. Can you share a specific time in your business career, perhaps raising that $500 million or navigating one of your 30 corporate acquisitions, where split-second martial arts principle directly saved the deal?
sure. I think, I remember in one of my first startups, we were in the running to basically launch Sony's first foray of computers into the United States. And we were there basically to create all the marketing online for them. And we reached essentially the final round of meetings, right? It's us and a couple other ad firms from New York. And I'm in the room. They've flown in Talk, who is this preeminent business leader from Japan, from Sony, had run other major lines of business like the Walkman and a lot of other products that they've been super successful with. And Talk's in the room, large boardroom, flanked by like 10 people on each end. And, we're a small team. We had prepped all night, making the presentation. Halfway through the presentation, I'm realizing that Talk's not interested,
Mm.
you know, and you kind of have to make a decision, right? You've been prepping, you've got an agenda, you've got an itinerary of material to convey, and I just realized right then and there we were going to lose the whole deal. So
Yeah.
I just broke rank. I basically stood up and I changed the tempo. I went back to my briefcase backpack, pulled out a bunch of 3D mapping that we had of the website, and I just started to say, look, here's things we found. Here's some data that we learned about how you're currently marketing, and I just gave enough information, gave enough emotion in the room where Talk's eyes lit up, and he started to see that we truly had spent a lot of time trying to learn about what Sony's needs were, what their gaps were, and we could show him. And I think had we not made that change in the middle of the presentation, we wouldn't have gotten the deal. We left. We got the phone call a couple days later, obviously on pins and needles, but it's things like that. It's the notion that you're actually present in the room, that you're actually connecting with the people in the room.
Hmm. Yeah. Real quick, in about 30 seconds or less, if you could look directly at the business owners and leaders listening to us right now who are feeling completely overwhelmed by this intense economic climate, what's the single most critical piece of advice you'd give them to help them find their footing, lock in their discipline, and prevail?
Old Master Kang basically asked me one day after one of my sessions, he said, Ben, do you meditate? I said, no, I don't meditate. I'm too busy, etc. You know, and then he looked at me again and he said, do you have 2 minutes a day? And what was I supposed to say? I didn't have 2 minutes. And that's what I challenge folks with. Give
I love it.
yourself the gift of 2 minutes a day.
That is practical. That is powerful. And again, it's worked so well for you. One more time, what's the name of the book and how can folks find it?
Lessons from the Mat. You can get it on Amazon or you can go to Audible and get the audio edition.
All right, fantastic. Benjamin Chen, really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate all of our guests on today's powerful, high energy show. As always, you could find the archive of our 12 plus years of shows on my website, syklein.com, or of course, go on your favorite podcast app. Just search for Get Down to Business. But make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss a single week. To success, let's get down to business. We'll be back right here in the same place, at the same time next week. We'll see you then. Have a great week.